Before I jump in, so you all, I got the church text. I received some feedback that they actually liked the trivia that we did Sunday. So we're not going to, that won't be a one and done thing, Lord willing. We might end up doing that every so often again. And I have some other things that I'm working on too as well. All right. So we're going to try to keep things interesting and moving, and that's that's a good way to learn about God. It's a good way to meditate as well. We might end up getting some old, I used to have my Bible, my physical Bible up on the podium here. I used to have my physical Bible up here, and nowadays everything is like almost electronic. Now I have my Bible here now. We might have to get into doing some sword drills and things like that too, things of that nature for the prize box and stuff like that. So we're going to try to shake it up here and keep doing some interesting things, okay? All right, the title of the message is Do Not Ignore What God says and does. Do not ignore what God says and does. All right? And that's so important, because when you forget and you ignore what God says and does, then there's consequences. There are consequences when you ignore because He's telling us to do things for a reason. He wants us to obey His voice. He wants us to obey His word. He wants us to obey His commandments and His laws. So if we don't do that, if we ignore it, then there's consequences for not listening to God. There's consequences. And a lot of times people want to find out this, I remember having this one of my patients ask me this. She said, do we have a merciful God or a punishing God? She said something like that. She said, do we have a merciful God or a punishing God? What kind of God do you think we have? What's that? Both. Exactly. I said, He's both. He is merciful. He doesn't kill you the first time after you have sinned. But He is a punishing God too, meaning if you don't do what He says, eventually He will bring judgment on you. So He is both. So there are consequences for not listening to God. And some of the consequences are mental anguish. Right? Some people are in a hot mess. And they put themselves in that hot mess. They put themselves there. They did it. Because they did not listen to what God had said or done, what God told them. So they put themselves there. And we look at King Saul, the first king of Israel. He put himself in a hot situation. He put himself in mental anguish. It was to the point he was so tormented, right, to where he had to get David. They got David to play the harp to soothe the evil that would come over him. Why was that? Because he was called on the carpet, so to speak. He was supposed to utterly destroy the Amalekites. He didn't do it. The kingdom was rent from him. God's face was turned from him. And he was in mental anguish. Right? He was in mental anguish. So King Saul, Cain, right? Carrie was talking about Cain. First, when we were asking about Genesis, right? But Cain, he had some mental anguish. First of all, he done did something horrible. He done killed his brother. He done killed Abel, his brother, right? Because he gave God this substandard sacrifice. Cain gave God a good sacrifice, a good offering. He gave God this substandard sacrifice. That was number one right there, was going to bring up some mental anguish. God refused it. God's not going to just take anything that you give or you think you want to give. He wants your very best. Cain didn't give his very best. So it was refused. It was refused. But not only that, but then he had the nerve to get upset with his brother. His brother was doing right, and he's going to have the nerve to get upset with his brother. Why did he get upset with himself? Right? Why did he harm himself? I don't condone that either, though. But I'm just saying, why would he go and do something bad to his brother? Why would he get upset with his brother? But he got upset with his brother and he killed his brother. He killed Abel. And then God had asked him, God knew what he was asking him, but God still asked him the question anyway. He asked him, where is thy brother? He asked him, where's his brother? And he got smart and said, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? He got smart with it. Right? And then lo and behold, God told him what his punishment was going to be. He told him that he was going to be a vagabond. You know what I mean? He told him what his punishment was going to be. Cain was getting exiled. He was getting excluded from where he was. And guess what he had the nerve to say? Mental anguish. My punishment be too hard for me to bear. My punishment be too hard for me to bear. Mental anguish. Then we go to the prodigal son. Wow. The prodigal son, his dad had a lot. His dad had a lot. He wanted his inheritance. He wanted what his dad had for him. He wanted it. He took that money, he took whatever his dad gave him, went to another place. He wasted it on riotous living. Wasted it. Then he got so low, he had to go hire himself out. And he was eating corn. He was eating what pigs would eat. He was eating what pigs would eat. And he said, he came to himself. And after he even said he came to himself. He came to himself and said, you know what? My dad's hired servants have a lot more than I have right here. They have bread enough to spare. They have bread. I'm going to go back to my dad and ask him to be as one of his hired servants. Because why? He was in mental anguish. He got so bad where he said, I don't even deserve to be called a son. Mental anguish brought some mental heavy problems to where he was so upset with himself, he was so distraught with himself that he said, I don't even deserve to be called a son. Let me be as one of the hired servants. Mental anguish. But we're not even done there. Then you go to Israel as a country. As a country. And I want you to turn to this one right here. This is going to be in Psalms 137, verses 1 through 4. Beginning at verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows, in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song. And they that wasted us required of us myrrh, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. Verse 4. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? They were in mental anguish. They had some mental anguish going on. Right? They had some mental anguish that was happening. Why did they have this mental anguish? Did anybody care to understand why they had mental anguish? They were captive. They were captive. Why were they captive? Because they could not do right by the sight of God. They could not continue to do right. They wouldn't do right. God would bring them out of one situation, right? And then they would go back to sin again. They would cry out to God. God would take them out of another situation, and they would sin again. Right? They would keep sinning. So now they're in this situation to where they're in a strange land, and they're all upset, right? And they hung their harps upon the willows. And they said, how can we sing? Right? Because they were sorrowful. They were sad. They were sad. One might could say, as a nation, they were depressed as a nation. They were depressed as a nation. Why? They ignored God. We understand that Israel ignored God repeatedly. And they were put in a different situation. If you read into Daniel, whenever they were taken by King Nebuchadnezzar, he said, he talked about how we had sinned. How we sinned. Right?
Yes.
You read into situations, then you go into another situation, I believe in Nehemiah. He talks in the same situation. Israel was a nation that would would get judgment. God would bring them out. He would show mercy on them. Right? Then they would go back in to sin again. Now, some other consequences of not listening to God. Relationships, bad relationships, relationships that's been broken. Bad relationships and relationships that's been broken because you don't listen to God. Why? Bad marriages. God, and the thing about it is you wouldn't have to have these bad marriages because God says to be equally yoked. To be equally yoked. So we're going to turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Why do people have bad marriages? Because they're just going off of one criteria. She's fine. Oh, he's fine. And they're just their nose is up in the air, man. They can't see anything else. Man, I got a fine woman, man. She's fine. And yeah, you're right. You marry her, you're going to be eating off the floor. She ain't fixing anything. She's going to put your food down there with the dog. Right? Because she's fine. Right? She's fine. He's fine. Right? Yeah, he's fine. Your nose up in the air. But whenever it's time to pay the light bill after he got paid, he's somewhere else. He's in the bar drinking it. He's fine. She's fine. But see, if we would actually listen to what God has to say about it, we wouldn't have to have these issues going on. God said in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. But we'll try to justify it. We'll go out there and think that we'll see somebody who's fine and we're going to convert them. We're going to make them holy. Right? We're going to make them holy, man. Nah. No. You know what? You get what you brought. When you took it out the store, that's what you're guaranteed. You know what? You got what you paid for. No. We're going to change them. There's some good in them. I know there's good in them. No, you're saying that because you think she's so fine. You want her to be good in them. You're seeing the good. There's some good. Their skin, the way that they look is good, but everything else is horrible. But you're trying to justify it. They do some bad things. They do some bad things. Oh, that's just the way that they were raised. They don't know any better. Well, you know what? You're going to go through a lot of heartache when you're trying to figure out the right way. You're going to go through some heartache trying to figure out the right way. You know what? I can tell you all I can sympathize with you. I'm sorry that you're twisted. You were brought up the wrong way, but I can't be with you because that means I'm going to be having some heartache. I'm going to be like Samson and Delilah. Where did you get your strength from? And every time I'm bound with chains and stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness. She's fine, but she's binding me with these chains. Lord help me, Lord help me. I told you shouldn't have married to her. Who am I talking to in here? You know what I'm talking about. Right? No. God says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion have light with darkness?
Preach, Bishop.
You have no business in that relationship. You have no business. But people have bad relationships, and they'll cry, and they'll be upset, and they'll hurt, and they'll have pain. Right? Because they weren't equally yoked together. And I'm going to tell you this. You're going to have some struggles when you're equally yoked together. Just imagine when you're not equally yoked. You're going to have some struggles when you're equally yoked. I'm just going to be straight up with you. You're going to have some problems. That's when you're equally yoked together. You had the same like-mindedness. You're still going to have some problems. Now imagine this person believes this and another person believes that. This person, he believes this, she believes that. You're going to have a lot of problems. You want to be equally yoked together. Right? And the thing about it is that some people say, and then like sometimes your family might say, I don't know. I don't know about that one right there. I don't know. Something. I don't. And you might. well, I'm grown. I do what I do what I want to do. I'm grown. You know, I mean, it's my life. Really? Really? Who in here think your life is just your life? Let me put your hands up. I want to see them. Who think your life is just your life? You should be able to make decisions just because you feel like it. Let me see your hands. Put them up. I want to see them. Because that's foolish talking. Because everybody's life touches somebody else's life. Like, if you did something, you say, you know what, I'm grown, I can make my own decisions, and you go out there and make a decision, and then lo and behold, you know what, you're struggling, everybody in your family, other people are going to have to pull you up out of that pit. Going to have to pull you up out of that struggle. You understand me? No, you don't make any decisions on your own just because you think you're grown and you can do what you want to do. No! You don't live on an island by yourself. Now, if you lived on Gilligan's Island and you were all alone by yourself, maybe you can do that. But not when other people's lives are touching your life. Not when other people's lives when other people invested in you and they care about you and they see that and then they see your struggle and your hurt and your pain and then you even go to them with your struggles, your hurt and your pain. No, you can't do that. No. But let's turn to Genesis. Chapter 26, verse 34 and 35. We're going to learn a little bit about this. We're going to learn a little bit about this. Nah, Mom, Dad, I pick who I want to pick. I'm in love. You better go cold turkey and get that love out of your system. If you think you love, you better love the right way, the one you're equally yoked with. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri, the Hittite, and Bashmath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, which were, now I want you to pay attention to this, which were a grief of mine unto Isaac and to Rebekah. That was Esau's mother and father, his parents. They were a grief of mine to them. They didn't have it easy. You understand? No, your life touches other lives. It does. So we got to make sure of that. You know, some other consequences is they have money problems, money troubles. But the Word of God says, you know what I mean, it tells you, it says, thou art cursed with a curse. He's telling you, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that I may have room enough I may have meat in my house. I may have meat in my house. Right? That's what he says. But some people, they don't want to pay tithes. They don't want to pay offering. Nah, I pay 10% of my, but I make, nah, I ain't doing that. I am not doing, I'm going to inform you something. That 10% is off the gross. It's not off the net. I'm going to let you know a little bit about that. But 10%. No, I'm not paying that. And then people wondering, why am I not being blessed? Why is my money? Why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Why am I strapped? He told them he said, you'll be cursed with it. Let's go to that, matter of fact. That's Malachi, right? Malachi, right? Am I right? Clay, you're the one that reads that. Malachi, right? 3 and 10?
Amen.
Let's turn to that. Malachi. All righty, are we ready for it? It says, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. Why should it be meat in God's house? Right? Because you want to know why there should be meat in God's house? Because people are coming to God's house to eat. You understand me? Somebody will probably be calling the first lady for some help for Thanksgiving or something like that, or help for Christmas. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. So we're talking about blessing here. If you do it this way, you get blessed. That you shall not have room enough to receive it. Right? Now listen to this. Let's go up to it. But it said, will a man rob God? That's verse 8. Will a man rob God? This is if you don't do your tithes. Will a man rob God? Yet he have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offering. And then on verse 9 it said, ye are cursed with a curse. For you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Then it goes on, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me here now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. The other one was a curse. But when you do it, you get blessed. That there shall not be room enough to receive it. See, that's what happens when we serve God. So it's like we cannot ignore. Do not ignore what God says and does. If he tells you to do things a certain way, do it that way. Because there's going to be consequences. Then you're going to be looking all sorrowful and having people trying to feel sorry for you. But if you would just do it right the first way.
Preach.
Do it right the first time.
Preach, Bishop, preach.
Do it right. So, people have money troubles, a consequence going on. And then not only that, people have health problems. People even they die not listening. They die even not listening. And if we look at Moses, Moses didn't die because he was some old feeble man. You understand me? Moses did not die because he was some old feeble man. Moses died because he didn't listen to God. God told him to speak to the rock for water to come out of it. He wanted water to come out of this rock. But Moses was all upset with the people, so he let his upsetness get in the way, right? And so he went ahead, he smoked the rock with the stick. But God said, God wasn't pleased with that. Because he didn't do it the way God wanted him to do it. God told him to speak to the rock. See how it is? See, sometimes we think that, oh, I'll just strike the rock. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. Well, it is. God said speak to it. He didn't say strike it. I know they both begin with S. But speak and strike is two different things. He didn't listen. So he died. Next one, Samson. Old Samson. Up there with Delilah. Right? Up there, how many times did this guy, man, I'm like, man, does this guy, I mean, I know he's strong, but do he have a brain? How many times in the world did he tell her something and it happens? And then lo and behold, he's up there and then he tells her the real thing? Are you kidding me? It had to happen one time. If I'm bound with 7 green, whatever it is, he said, then I'll lose my strength. And then you wake up, you're tired with that. You say, oh, no. This is not the relationship for me. I'm out of here. Right? Where's my hat? Right? I'm out of here.
Preach.
But he's going to go ahead and stay there and that.
Preach. Preach.
Not for me. Then we go to Lot's wife. Right? Lot, I know the scripture wasn't back in that day. Was Lot say, save yourself from this untoward children? I ain't looking back. You looking back, I'm going to hold your hand and just pull you along. But if you're looking back, it's on you. See, Lot's wife got, they were told not to look back. Right? There's going to be consequences if you look back. Whenever they came out of Sodom and Gomorrah, they came out of there. Right? They came out of it and they told them, don't look back. Lot's wife going to look back. See, that's what happens sometimes when you look back into that old life. When you look back into that old life, problems happen. You understand me? Problems. That should be a good example of that. When you go back and you look at that old life, you end up getting entangled in it again. You end up getting caught up in it somehow, somewhere. Leave the past in the past. All right? Leave the past in the past.
Preach.
But the thing about it is, she's going to look back. Lot's wife's going to look back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Like I said, Lot, man, he didn't look back. He might have I don't know if he was holding her hand on the way out. He I can't look back. I can't see what happened. Huh? You were told not to look. Right? But she looked back. Can't look back. Adam. Situation going on. That's why we're dying right now, because of Adam. He sat there and told Eve that she shouldn't eat from it. So he knew, right? He knew he shouldn't eat from it. He knew it. But then she's going to take it. Then she's going to give it to him. And he's going to take it and eat. He's going to take it and eat. And just like men, they're going to blame the woman. See, the woman was a downfall. Well, he knew he shouldn't have ate. He should have said, no, woman, you crazy. Put that thing away from me. Right? That's like kryptonite. Right? Put that thing away from me. But he's going to eat. See, that doesn't, you know, guys, you got to stand for God. Stand up for God. Even in the midst of, even in your relationship, you may find out that, oh man, you always stand for God. Always stand for God. But yeah, I mean, so Adam, he knew not to eat. They're going to try to put a lot of it on Eve, but he knew. He told her not to, but he's going to take it and eat. And what happened? The consequences was death. We've been dying ever since. We've been dying ever since. Now we can't ignore, we can't forget what God, we can't forget what God done. Like I said, we can't ignore what he says, but we can't forget what he has done too. Because that really aggravates, that aggravates God when you forget what he had done. When he blessed you in a certain way and you want to act like you forgot about it, don't forget it. In Numbers chapter 14 verse 11, and the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe me? For all the signs which I have showed among them. Let's go to that. Let's turn to that. I'm kind of cut off here. It's Numbers 14 and 11. Was that it? We're just going to go there anyways. That was 14, right? And 11. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe me? For all the signs which I have shown among them. Right? And listen to this. If you go down one verse, I will smite them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of thee a greater nation and mightier than they. Right? See, the Lord was really upset whenever they forgot what he done for them. And I'm going to give you a little bit of intro into this, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. This is whenever they were supposed to go spy out the land. They were supposed to go spy out the land and see about what was going on in the land over there, right? And they came back with this bad report. They came back with a bad report saying that, you know what, we can't take them. They're too strong for us. They're bigger than us. They're overpower us. They had brought back this bad, matter of fact, the Bible called it an evil report. Right? And what ended up happening was, God was saying, hey, don't you remember I brought you out of Egypt? Don't you remember I did these things for you? How are you going to go ahead and think that I can't deliver you, that I can't give these people into your hands? I'm the same God that took care of you, that brought you through the Red Sea. I'm the same God that had you escape. I'm the same God that fed you when you didn't have anything to eat. I'm the same God that gave you drink when you didn't have anything to drink. In other words, he's still the same God. He's still the same God. He did all these things for them, and yet they didn't believe that they weren't strong enough to overtake these other people. And so God was upset with them because they didn't remember. He said, for all the signs which I have showed among them, all the stuff that I did, and you still aren't on board? You still don't have confidence in me? So no, we can't forget what God has done. We can't forget it.
Amen.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 through 14. Right? And again, you know, we got to realize God wants us to do things the way that he tells us to do them. He wants us to do things the way he told, and he will bless us. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. So all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shall thou be in the city, blessed shall thou be in the field, blessed shall thou be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall thou thy basket and thy store. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shall thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shall thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall curse thy enemy, the Lord shall cause thy enemy that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouse, and all that thou settest thy hand to do. Let's read that. Let's read that again. The Lord shall command the blessings to come upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thy hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Man, there's a lot of things going on if you just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, and walk in his ways. All the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord swore unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the works of thy hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. And thou shalt not, hear that? And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand, nor to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. Right? And he talked, because later on in that chapter, he talked about a lot of different curses that would happen. Right? So he told them different things that was going to happen if they didn't do it the way that he told them to do it. But you got to understand, just do it the way that God tells you. If you do it his way, you're going to be blessed. You're going to be blessed. Do it the way that the Lord tells you. And then you just be blessed, and you'll stay away from the curses. And then on verse 15 it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So you can be overtaken by blessings, or you could be overtaken by curses. We have to listen to the Lord. We have to listen to what he says, and listen and pay attention to what he has done. But the Lord, he is mighty, and he is powerful, and he's able to bless us and he would like to bless us, but we got to put ourselves in a position to be blessed.
Amen.
Joshua chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. Have not I command thee, be strong. See, listen, I want you to pay attention to this. Have not I command thee, be strong and of a good of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. Then Joshua, listen to this. He was told that. Joshua was told to be of good courage and be not afraid, right? He was told this. And as a result of that, he had made a move. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, we're going to go to that, Joshua 1. Turn to Joshua 1 with me. See, the Lord was dealing with Joshua. We go back to the first verse of that, right? We go back to the first verse. God was dealing with Joshua, and he was telling him these things. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass, the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Right? Now, and then later on, he said what he said to him. Right? What we just read. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe. Oh no, hold on, where were we at here? Let me go back to my notes here. Let me go back to my notes here real quick. Okay, 9. Okay, 9 to 10. All right. So he said, so then he told him all this. He told him all this, and then Joshua made a move off of what the Lord told him. Joshua made a move. He did something. See, whenever God tells you to do something, right, there should be some kind of movement. There should be some kind of compliance to it. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the host, and command the people, saying, prepare your ventricles, for within 3 days ye shall pass over this Jordan. Go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth to you to possess it. See, you understand me? There was a move. We have to pay attention. We cannot ignore what God tells us. Do not ignore what God says and does. Be aware of that. You don't want to end up finding yourself dealing with some heavy consequences, dealing with something because you did not pay attention to what he says. You did what you wanted to do. Saul did what he wanted to do. The kingdom got rent from him. He got killed in battle. You understand me? Do not do what you want to do. Pay attention to what God had done. Don't cut God short. If you ask God to do something for you, and he did it for you, and then you got this other heavy thing coming up, and you got this other thing coming up, and you act like you don't think God can deal with it, you better remember what God has already done. Remember what he has already done for you.